The great crystal palace of Eltharion Prime had seen many shocking moments in its 3,000-year history. But nothing quite like this. Prince Zarthok stood in the center of the Imperial Council chamber, his blue crystalline skin glowing. With nervous energy as hundreds of the most powerful beings in 17 star systems stared at him in complete silence. His mother, Empress Nalvera, sat on the throne that had been carved from a single massive diamond. Her silver eyes, which could read minds across vast distances, now burned with a mixture of fury and disbelief. The other council members shifted uncomfortably in their floating seats, their own psychic abilities picking up the waves of shock and anger flowing through the room. "Repeat what you just said," the Empress commanded, her voice echoing through the chamber with the power that had bent entire civilizations to her will. Zarthok lifted his chin, his own silver eyes meeting his mother's gaze without flinching. "I said I will not choose a mate from the candidates you have selected. I require a human as my bonding partner." The explosion of outraged voices was immediate. Admiral Kekstar, whose red skin marked him as a member of the warrior caste, leaped to his feet. "This is madness. Humans are barely civilized. They have no psychic abilities, no advanced technology, no noble bloodlines." High geneticist Molwyn, her green skin pulsing with agitation, added her voice to the chaos. "The biological incompatibility alone makes this impossible. Their lifespan is a fraction of ours. Their mental capacity is limited. This would weaken our bloodline for generations." But Zarthok remained calm in the storm of angry voices. Had expected this reaction. For months, he had been preparing for this moment. Knowing that his decision would shake the very foundations of the Velthari Empire, the Empress raised one hand. An instant silence fell over the chamber. Her psychic power was legendary, capable of controlling entire armies with a single thought. "Explain yourself," she said, her voice deadly quiet. Zarthok took a deep breath. "6 months ago, you sent me on a diplomatic mission to the border worlds. Do you remember what happened?"
"Us."
"Your ship was attacked by Krex pirates," the Empress replied, her eyes narrowing. "The incident was dealt with." "Yes, but you do not know the full story." Zarthok turned to address the entire council. "My ship, the Starfire, was badly damaged. Our weapons were failing, our shields were down to 20%. We were facing 12 Krex battlecruisers, and they had us surrounded." He paused, letting the image sink in. The Krex were known throughout the galaxy as fierce warriors, and 12 of their ships could easily destroy a single Velthari vessel, even a royal one. "Then a human ship appeared," Zarthok continued. "A single vessel called the New Horizon. It was smaller than our ship, with weapons that were primitive by our standards. Its captain was a human named Jake Harrison," Admiral Kekstar snorted. "And this human ship did what exactly? Sent a distress signal to the nearest Velthari fleet?" "No," Zarthok said quietly. "Captain Harrison attacked the Krex fleet. The silence that followed was different from before. This time it was the silence of complete disbelief. One human ship against 12 Krex cruisers." High geneticist Molwyn shook her head. "That is not bravery, that is suicide." "That is what I thought too," Zarthok admitted. "I was wrong. Captain Harrison did not attack the way we would have attacked. He did not try to match their firepower or rely on superior technology. Instead, he did something completely unexpected." The prince began to pace, his excitement growing as he relived the memory. The human ship moved in patterns that made no sense. It would dart in, fire a few shots, then retreat. It would hide behind asteroids, then appear somewhere else entirely. The Krex could not predict its movements, because there was no logical pattern to follow. "Chaos is not a battle strategy," Admiral Kekstar growled. "It is not chaos," Zarthok replied. "It is adaptation." While the Krex were trying to figure out what the human was doing, Captain Harrison was studying them. He noticed that their ships always moved in formations, always followed predictable patterns. So he began to exploit those patterns. The prince stopped pacing and faced the council directly. Within 20 minutes, the human ship had destroyed 3 Krex cruisers and damaged 4 others. The remaining ships retreated, not because they were overpowered, but because they could not understand how to fight an enemy that refused to follow the rules. Empress Nalvera leaned forward on her throne. This impressed you enough to want to mate with their species. That was only the beginning, Zarthok said. After the battle, Captain Harrison's ship was also damaged. Both our vessels limped to the nearest station for repairs. I spent 3 days with the human crew, learning about their culture, their way of thinking. He turned to face his younger sister, Princess Yelana, who had been watching the proceedings. With fascination, sister, you have studied the military histories of 100 different species. Tell me, what is the one thing that makes a species truly dangerous in war? Yelana's golden eyes brightened with understanding. It's the ability to adapt quickly to new situations and create unexpected solutions. Exactly, Zarthok nodded. Humans are the most adaptable species I have ever encountered. They have no natural psychic abilities, so they develop technology to communicate across vast distances. They have no natural armor or weapons, so they created tools that make them more dangerous than any predator. They have short lifespans, so they developed ways to pass knowledge from one generation to the next more efficiently than any other species. High geneticist Molwyn shook her head. These are the actions of a desperate species trying to survive. We have evolved beyond such crude methods, have we? Zarthok challenged. When was the last time our empire created something truly new? When was the last time we solved a problem in a way that had never been tried before? We have become so powerful, so confident in our superiority that we have stopped growing. The prince's words sent a chill through the chamber. Growth and evolution were sacred concepts in Valtheri culture, and the suggestion that they had stopped evolving was deeply disturbing. The humans have been in space for less than 200 years, Zarthok continued, yet they have already developed technologies that work differently from anything we have seen. They think in ways that are completely alien to us, and that is exactly what makes them valuable. Empress Nalvera stood up slowly, her massive form towering over the chamber. You believe that mating with a human will somehow benefit our empire? I believe that understanding humans will benefit our empire, Zarthok replied. The best way to truly understand another species is to bond with them completely. A political marriage with another noble house will give us the same alliances and advantages we have always had. A bond with a human will give us something we have never had before, a completely new perspective on the galaxy. The Empress stared at her son for a long moment, her psychic abilities probing his mind. What she found there surprised her. This was not the whim of a rebellious prince. This was a carefully considered decision based on genuine strategic thinking. Noble houses will not accept this, she said finally. Duke Vexamore and Duchess Solana have already promised their support in exchange for advantageous marriages for their children. If you refuse to choose from the approved candidates, they will see it as an insult to their honor. Then let them be insulted, Zarthok said firmly. The Empire is more important than their pride. Admiral Kextar stood up again, his red skin now glowing with anger. And what if the humans refuse? What if they see this as some kind of trick or insult? Could start a war over this foolishness. The humans are not fools, Zarthok replied. Captain Harrison proved that. They will understand that this is an opportunity for both our species to learn from each other. The Empress walked down from her throne until she was standing directly in front of her son. You are asking me to risk the stability of the Empire for an experiment that has never been tried before. I am asking you to trust me, Zarthok said quietly. I am asking you to trust that I have seen something in the humans that could make us stronger, not weaker. Mother and son stared at each other for a long moment, the weight of 3,000 years of imperial tradition hanging between them. Finally, the Empress spoke. You have 6 months, she said. 6 months to go to Earth, to find this human mate you desire, and to prove that this alliance will benefit the Empire. But if you fail, if this experiment brings disgrace or danger to our people, you will accept the consequences. Zarthok bowed deeply. I accept your terms, Mother. And if the humans refuse you? Admiral Kextar demanded. The prince smiled, and for the first time since entering the chamber, he looked completely confident. Then I will adapt. After all, I learned from the best teachers in the galaxy. Dr. Lisa Grant had always imagined that first contact with alien royalty would happen in some grand ceremony with world leaders and television cameras. She never expected it to begin with a knock on her office door at 7 in the morning while she was still drinking her first cup of coffee. Dr. Grant. The voice belonged to Director Martin Webb of the Global Contact Institute. He looked like he had not slept in days. We need you in conference room A immediately. Bring everything you know about Velthari culture. Lisa nearly dropped her coffee mug. What happened? Is there a problem with the diplomatic mission? Could say that. Webb ran his hand through his gray hair. Prince Zerthok has made a specific request. He wants a cultural liaison to help him understand human society. He asked for you personally, me. But I've never even met him. I've only published 2 papers on Velthari's social structures, and those were based on second-hand reports. Webb gave her a tired smile. Apparently that's 2 more papers than anyone else has written. The prince read your work and was impressed. He lands in Geneva in 3 hours, and you're going to be his guide to humanity. Lisa stared at him in shock. 3 months ago, she had been a quiet researcher studying alien cultures from the safety of her university office. Now she was about to become the official representative of the human race to an alien prince who wanted to marry one of them. What exactly does he want to know? She asked. Everything, Webb replied. How humans form relationships, how we choose our mates, what we consider important in a partner. He wants to experience human culture directly, not just read about it in reports. 2 hours later, Lisa stood on the landing pad at the Geneva spaceport, watching as the Velthari diplomatic shuttle descended from the clouds. The ship was beautiful in a way that made her chest ache. It looked like it had been carved from a single piece of silver crystal, and it moved through the air with impossible grace. When the shuttle touched down, there was a moment of complete silence. Then the door opened and Prince Zerthok stepped out. Lisa had seen images of Velthari before, but nothing had prepared her for the reality. He was tall, nearly 7 feet, with skin that looked like it had been made from blue crystal. His hair was silver and seemed to move in a wind that no one else could feel. His eyes were the color of starlight, and when he looked at her, she felt like he could see straight through to her soul. Dr. Grant, he said, and his voice was like music. I am honored to meet you. Lisa tried to remember the proper greeting protocols she had studied. Your Highness, welcome to Earth. I am Dr. Lisa Grant, and I will be your cultural liaison during your stay. Zerthok tilted his head, studying her with obvious curiosity. You are nervous. Is interesting. In your papers, you wrote about human emotional responses with great confidence. But experiencing them directly is different from studying them, is it not? Yes, Your Highness, it is very different. To her surprise, Zerthok smiled. If I am to understand human culture, I must experience it as humans do. And humans do not use formal titles with their friends, do they? No, we don't, but I'm not sure if we're friends yet. Then let us find out. Zerthok looked around at the crowds of reporters and officials who had gathered to witness his arrival. Tell me, Dr. Grant, what would a normal human do on their first day in a new city? Lisa blinked. Well, they might get coffee, maybe walk around and see the sights. Visit some local shops. Try the food. Then that is what we will do. Zerthok announced this loudly enough for everyone to hear. Director Webb looked like he was about to have a heart attack. Your Highness, Webb began, we have a full schedule of meetings with government officials, scientists, and cultural experts. Cancel. Them, Zerthok said simply. I did not come here to meet with your leaders. I came here to meet with your people. Dr. Grant will show me how humans live. And so began the strangest week of Lisa's life. Every morning, Zerthok would arrive at her apartment building, and they would spend the day exploring Geneva like tourists. He insisted on taking public transportation, shopping at regular stores, and eating at ordinary restaurants. The first time they went to a coffee shop, Zerthok spent 20 minutes examining the menu with intense concentration. Humans have created 47 different ways to prepare the same basic drink, he observed. This suggests that you value variety and personal choice over efficiency. I suppose that's true, Lisa said, ordering her usual cappuccino. What would you like to try? I want what you are having. If I am to understand humans, I should start by understanding you. As the days passed, Lisa found herself looking forward to their meetings. Zarthok had an endless curiosity about human behavior, but he never made her feel like a specimen being studied. Instead, he asked questions that made her think about her own culture in new ways. Why do humans shake hands when they meet? He asked one day as they walked through a park. It's a greeting, a way to show that we're not carrying weapons and that we mean no harm. But you have other ways to show peaceful intent. You could bow or wave or simply speak. Why physical contact? Lisa thought about it. I think it's because we want to connect with each other. Humans are social creatures. Need to touch and be touched. It makes us feel less alone. Starthok stopped walking and turned to face her. Less alone? He repeated. This is important to humans? It's very important. We're pack animals at heart. We need to belong to something bigger than ourselves. The Velthari do not have this need, Zarthok said quietly. Our psychic abilities mean we are never truly alone. We can always sense other minds around us. But this also means we can never truly be individual. We are always part of the collective consciousness. Lisa saw something in his expression that she had never seen before. Loneliness. Is that why you want to marry a human? Because we can be alone? No, Zarthok said, because you can be alone and still choose to be together. Velthari bonding is not a choice. Our minds merge and we become one being. But humans choose to stay together even when they could leave. That choice makes the bond stronger, not weaker. Their conversation was interrupted by shouts from across the park. A group of teenagers had surrounded an elderly man who had fallen off his bicycle. Lisa and Zarthok hurried over to see what was happening. The old man was bleeding from a cut on his forehead, and his leg was twisted at an odd angle. One of the teenagers was on his phone calling for an ambulance. Another was using her jacket to stop the bleeding. A third was directing traffic around the accident scene. Does anyone know first aid? One of them called out. Lisa knelt beside the injured man and began checking his pulse. She had taken medical training as part of her research into different species emergency responses. His heartbeat is steady, but I think his leg might be broken. We need to keep him still until the ambulance arrives. Zarthak watched in fascination as the humans worked together. No one had given orders. No one had assigned roles. They simply saw what needed to be done and did it. When the ambulance arrived, they helped load the old man onto a stretcher, then quietly dispersed. Remarkable, Zarthok said as they walked away. They had never met that man before, had they? Probably not, Lisa agreed. Yet they risked their own safety to help him. They used their own belongings to treat his wounds. They coordinated their efforts without any telepathic communication. Zarthok shook his head in wonder. If that had been a group of young Velthari, they would have waited for an adult to tell them what to do. They would have been afraid to act without permission from someone in authority. Humans are taught to help each other from a young age, Lisa explained. We learn that we're all in this together, even strangers, especially strangers. We never know when we might need help ourselves. That evening, as they sat in a small restaurant sharing a pizza, Zarthok asked the question that had been building. All week, Lisa, what do you think of me? Lisa almost choked on her drink. What do you mean? I mean as a potential mate. You have spent more time with me than any human has ever spent with a Velthari. You understand my species better than anyone on your planet. So I ask you honestly, could you imagine bonding with someone like me? Lisa stared at him, her heart pounding. Zarthok, that's not a fair question. You're a prince. I'm just a researcher. We're from different worlds, literally. But if we were not, if I were just another being you had met, would you find me acceptable as a partner? Lisa looked into his silver eyes and saw something that surprised her. Vulnerability. This powerful alien prince, who could probably destroy her with a thought, was asking for her approval like any nervous human on a first date. Said carefully that you are kind, intelligent, and genuinely interested in understanding other people. Those are qualities that any human would value in a partner. But bonding with you would mean leaving everything I know behind. My family, my friends, my career, my world. That's not a decision anyone should make lightly. Zarthok nodded slowly. You are right, of course. I am asking too much, too quickly. Humans do not make such decisions based on logic alone. Time to develop feelings, to build trust. Is that what you want? Lisa asked. Time to build trust. I want to understand what makes humans so remarkable. The news reached every corner of the galaxy within hours. Prince Zarthok of the Velthari Empire was not just visiting Earth for diplomatic reasons, was actively courting a human female, spending his days living like an ordinary citizen instead of conducting royal business on the bridge of the Krex battleship Bloodfang. General Mordok laughed as he read the intelligence reports. The Krex had been enemies of the Velthari for centuries, always looking for signs of weakness in their powerful neighbors. The prince has gone soft, Mordok announced to his officers. He spends his time drinking human beverages and walking in their gardens. This is not the behavior of a warrior prince. Commander Vexstar, scarred from many battles, leaned forward in his chair. What does this mean for us, General? It means opportunity, Mordok replied, his yellow eyes gleaming. The Velthari have always claimed to be superior to all other species, but now their own prince prefers the company of primitives. This shows their empire is weak, ready to fall. Mordok gave the order that would change everything. Prepare the fleet. We attack the border worlds in 3 days. If the Velthari are too busy playing with humans to defend their territory, we will take it from them. On Veltharian Prime, the Crystal Palace was in chaos. Empress Nelvera sat in her private chambers, reading reports from her intelligence network. The news was worse than she had feared. 17 noble houses have formally requested an audience, reported General Kilmora, the Empress's most trusted advisor. They want to discuss the prince's behavior. And what do they want to discuss exactly? The Empress asked, though she already knew the answer. They want him recalled immediately. Duke Veximer has been particularly vocal, claims the prince's actions are damaging the Empire's reputation across the galaxy. Empress Nelvera stood and walked to the great window that overlooked the capital city. Below, millions of Velthari went about their daily lives, unaware that their empire was facing its greatest political crisis in 1,000 years. What about my daughter? What does Yelana think of all this? Princess Yelana has been studying the situation carefully, Kilmora replied. She believes the prince may be right about human potential, but she also warns that the noble houses are planning something. What kind of something? They are talking about declaring the prince unfit to rule. If enough houses support this, they could force you to choose a new heir. The Empress closed her eyes. She had given her son 6 months to prove his theory about humans, but she had not expected the political cost to be so high so quickly. On Earth, Lisa was beginning to understand that her quiet life as a researcher was over forever. Government agents had been questioning her neighbors. Porters followed her everywhere she went. And now, as she sat in Director Webb's office, she learned that the situation was even worse than she had imagined. The Krex attacked a mining station near Jupiter yesterday, Webb said, his voice grim. 67 people are dead. Lisa felt the blood drain from her face. Why? What did Earth do to them? Nothing. But they claimed the attack was necessary to cleanse Veltharia territory of primitive contamination. They're using the prince's presence here as an excuse to start a war. Lisa sank into her chair. So this is my fault. People are dead because I've been spending time with Zarthok. No, Webb said firmly. This is politics on a galactic scale. The Krex have been looking for an excuse to attack the Velthari for years. The prince's visit just gave them the excuse they needed. Where is Zarthok now? He's in emergency meetings with Earth's government leaders. They want to know if the Velthari will protect us from Krex attacks. Lisa stood up. I need to see him. That's not possible right now. Security is... Director Webb, Lisa interrupted. I may be the only human who truly understands how Zarthok thinks. If Earth's leaders are making decisions about war and peace, they need someone who can help them communicate with him properly. Webb stared at her for a long moment, then nodded. You're right. Come with me. The emergency meeting was taking place. In a secure conference room deep underground, Lisa had never seen so many important people in one place. The President of the European Federation, the Secretary General of the United Nations, the commanders of every major military force on Earth, and in the center of it all sat Zarthok. looking more alien than Lisa had ever seen him before. His skin was glowing with stress, and his silver eyes were hard as steel. The Velthari Empire cannot be seen as weak, he was saying. If we do not respond to the Krex attack, they will interpret it as fear. More attacks will follow. But any response you make will put Earth in danger, replied General Amy Foster, head of Earth's defense forces. We're caught in the middle of your war. This is not our war, Zarthok said coldly. The Krex attacked human civilians, so they made it your war. Lisa stepped forward, for thought. He turned to look at her, and some of the hardness left his expression. Lisa, I am sorry you have to see this. I'm sorry too. Sorry that people died because of something that should have been beautiful. What do you mean? Lisa looked around the room at all the worried faces. You came here to learn about humans, to understand what makes us special. But instead of seeing our best qualities, you're seeing our worst fears. We're scared, angry, and looking for someone to blame. And perhaps I should leave, Zarthok said quietly. My presence brings only danger to your people. No, Lisa said firmly. That's exactly what the Krex want. They want to drive us apart, to make us afraid of each other. Don't you see? This is a test. A test of what? A test of whether humans and Velthari can really work together. The Krex are betting that we can't, that we'll panic and turn on each other at the first sign of trouble. President Elena Martinez leaned forward. What are you suggesting, Doctor? Grant, Lisa took a deep breath. I'm suggesting that we prove them wrong. Instead of seeing this as a problem that divides us, we should see it as an opportunity to show what we can accomplish together. You want us to fight alongside the Velthari? General Foster asked. I want us to think like humans, Lisa replied. What would we do if pirates attacked our shipping lanes? We'd form a coalition, share intelligence, coordinate our response. We wouldn't hide and hope the problem goes away. Zarthok's eyes brightened with understanding. A joint task force. Human ships working with Velthari vessels. Exactly. Krex expect the Velthari to respond with overwhelming force, using the same tactics they've used for centuries. Expect humans to cower and beg for protection. But what if we do something completely different? General Foster shook her head. Our technology is centuries behind theirs. What could we possibly contribute to a space battle? It's the same thing we always contribute, Lisa said. Adaptability. Adaptability. The ability to think outside the box. The humans who helped me before did not have superior weapons, Zarthok added. But they had superior tactics. They saw possibilities that I could not see. President Martinez stood up. This is a very dangerous proposition. If we join a military alliance with the Velthari, we're taking sides in a galactic conflict. There's no going back from that. There's already no going back, Lisa pointed out. The Krex have declared us enemies. We can either face that as victims or as partners. And if the Velthari noble houses refuse to accept human help? Asked the Secretary General. What if they see our offer as an insult? Zarthok was quiet for a long moment. Then I will make them accept it. I am still a prince of the Empire. I still have authority, even if it costs you your inheritance, Lisa asked gently. Even then, the room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. Finally, President Martinez spoke. We need time to consider this. The various Earth governments will need to vote. While you are voting, more people will die, Zarthok said. The Krex will not wait for your democratic processes. Then what do you suggest? General Foster asked. Lisa stepped forward again. I suggest we start small. One ship, one crew, working together. If it works, we expand. If it doesn't, we haven't committed everything. And who would crew this ship? President Martinez asked. Lisa looked at Zarthok, seeing the same determination in his eyes that she felt in her own heart. Volunteers. People who believe this is worth trying. You're talking about risking lives on an experiment, General Foster warned. We're talking about risking lives to save lives, Lisa corrected. The Krex aren't going to stop with one mining station. They're testing our resolve. If we don't show them that humans and Velthari can work together, they'll keep pushing until they destroy everything we've built. Zarthok stood up, his tall form commanding attention. Dr. Grant is right. This is not just about one prince choosing a human mate. This is about whether two species can learn from each other, or whether fear and tradition will keep us apart forever. And if we fail? Asked the Secretary General. Then we fail together, Lisa said simply. But if we succeed, we change the galaxy forever. Outside the conference room, unknown to the people inside, Admiral Kekstar's spy drones recorded every word. The recordings were already being transmitted back to Veltharion Prime, where Duke Vexamor and his allies were planning their next move. The Duke smiled as he watched the transmission. The prince was not just courting a human female. The joint training facility on Luna Station had never been designed for this. Human engineers worked alongside Velthari technicians, trying to merge two completely different technologies into something that could actually function in battle. Sparks flew from overloaded circuits, and the air was filled with the sound of frustrated voices speaking in a dozen different languages. Captain Dan Murphy of the Earth Defense Force stood in the middle of the chaos, wondering what he had gotten himself into. 3 weeks ago, he had been commanding routine patrol missions around Mars. Now he was supposed to lead a combined fleet of human and alien ships against one of the most dangerous military forces in the galaxy. Captain Murphy called Lieutenant Beth Carter his navigation officer. The Velthari weapon systems aren't responding to our control interfaces. Every time we try to fire, we get an error message in their language. What does it say? Murphy asked. According to the translator, it says, "Psychic link required," whatever that means. Commander Zelkith of the Velthari 7th Fleet walked over, his blue skin shimmering with irritation. "It means your species cannot operate our weapons because you lack the mental abilities to interface with them directly." "Then how are we supposed to work together?" Murphy demanded. "Our weapons are too weak to hurt Krek ships, and your weapons don't work for us." "Perhaps this alliance was a mistake," Zelkith replied coldly. "My superiors warned me that humans were too primitive for this kind of cooperation." Murphy felt his temper rising, but before he could respond, a new voice cut through the argument. "Actually, I think I found a solution." Everyone turned to see Technician Kyle Adams, a young human engineer who had been working with the Velthari equipment for the past week. He was covered in grease and looked like he had not slept in days, but his eyes were bright with excitement. "What kind of solution?" Murphy asked. Kyle grinned. "Well, the Velthari weapons need psychic input to function, right? But what if we don't use psychic input? What if we trick the system into thinking it's getting mental commands when it's actually getting electronic ones?" Commander Zelkith looked confused. "That is impossible. The weapons are designed to read thought patterns directly from the user's mind." "But thought patterns are just electrical impulses," Kyle explained. "And electrical impulses can be simulated. I've been studying the weapon interfaces. I think I can build a device that generates the same kind of signals your brain does." "You want to fake psychic abilities?" Murphy asked. Exactly. If it works, we might be able to control your weapons faster than you can. Electronic signals travel at the speed of light. Thought patterns have to travel through biological neural networks." Zelkith stared at the young human as if he had grown a second head. "In 3,000 years of Velthari civilization, no one has ever suggested such a thing." "Because you already had psychic abilities," Kyle pointed out. "You never needed to think of alternatives, but humans have always had to find creative ways around our limitations." 3 days later, the first test proved that Kyle was right. Human pilots using his interface system could operate Velthari weapons with reaction times that amazed their alien allies. But the real breakthrough came when they started developing new tactics. "Look at this," said Lieutenant Carter, pointing at her tactical display. "If we position the Velthari ships here and the human ships here, we can create overlapping fields of fire that cover each other's blind spots." "But that formation has never been used before," Zelkith protested. "It violates standard fleet doctrine." "Good," Murphy replied. "The Kreks know your standard doctrine. They've been fighting you for centuries, but they've never fought anyone who breaks the rules." "And what if breaking the rules gets us all killed? Then we'll be dead," Murphy said simply. "But if we follow the old rules, we'll be dead anyway. At least this way we have a chance." While the joint fleet trained near Luna, the political situation was getting worse on both Earth and Valtharian Prime. On Earth, protests had broken out in major cities. Some people demanded that the government send Zarthok away to prevent more Krex attacks. Others insisted that Earth should stand with its new alien ally. Lisa found herself at the center of the storm. Reporters followed her everywhere, asking for her opinion on everything from interspecies marriage to galactic war. Government agents questioned her daily about Valthari culture and Prince Zarthok's intentions. "I never asked for any of this," she told Zarthok, as they sat in a secure conference room, surrounded by bodyguards. "Neither did I," he replied. "But we cannot change what has happened. We can only decide what to do next." "And what do you want to do next?" Zarthok was quiet for a long moment. "I want to tell you something that I have never told anyone else. When I was a child, I used to dream about being someone different. Not a prince, not an heir to an empire, just an ordinary person who could choose his own life. Why are you telling me this?" "Because you are the first person I have ever met who makes me feel like that ordinary person I dreamed of being. With you, I am not a prince or an alien or a political symbol. I am just Zarthok." Lisa felt her heart racing. Thought, "What are you saying?" "I am saying that I love you, Lisa Grant. Not because you are human and I need a human mate for political reasons. I love you because you are brave and kind and intelligent. I love you because you see possibilities where others see only problems." Lisa stared at him, tears forming in her eyes. "Zarthok, you do not have to answer now," he said gently. "I know that loving me means leaving everything you know behind. I know that it means becoming part of a war that is not your fault. I know that it means risking your life for people you have never met." "And what about you?" Lisa asked. "What does loving me cost you?" "Everything," Zarthok admitted. "My inheritance, my position, probably my life. But it also gives me something I never had before." "What's that?" "A reason to fight for something instead of just fighting against something." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent message from Princess Yelana on Valtharian Prime. Her image appeared on the communication screen, and Lisa could see the fear in her silver eyes. "Brother, you must return home immediately," Yelana said. "Duke Veximer has convinced 12 noble houses to support a formal challenge to your inheritance. They claim you have committed treason by sharing military secrets with an alien species." "Kind of challenge?" Zarthok asked. "Trial by combat? If you do not return to face it within 10 days, you will be declared dead and stripped of all royal rights." Lisa felt cold dread in her stomach. "What does trial by combat mean?" "It means I must fight Duke Veximer's champion to the death," Zarthok explained. "If I win, my actions are justified. If I lose, I die and he becomes heir to the throne."
"But
"That's barbaric," Lisa protested. "It is ancient law," Yelana said. "Even Mother cannot overrule it. But brother, there is something else you should know. Duke Veximer has been in contact with the Krex. I have proof that he promised them territorial concessions in exchange for their support in overthrowing our family." Zarthok's skin flared bright blue with anger. "He is a traitor to the Empire. But unless you can prove it in combat, he will become the next emperor. And when that happens, he will abandon the alliance with Earth and leave humanity defenseless against Krex attacks." Lisa stood up suddenly. "Then we don't let that happen." "Do you mean," Zarthok asked, "I mean we fight smart, not hard. This Duke Veximer is expecting you to come home alone and face him according to traditional rules. What if we don't follow the traditional rules?" "Lisa, I cannot ask you to." "You're not asking. I'm volunteering. If we're going to be together. We face these challenges together." Yelana's image smiled for the first time. "I like this human, brother. She thinks like a true warrior." "But the trial by combat is sacred law," Zarthok protested. "I cannot break it without losing all honor." "Who says anything about breaking it?" Lisa asked. "We're going to follow the law exactly. But that doesn't mean we can't be creative about how we follow it." As they began planning their return to Valtharian Prime, none of them noticed the small surveillance device hidden in the wall. Duke Veximer's spy was recording every word, sending the information directly to his master. The Duke smiled as he listened to their plans. "Let them come," he told his supporters. "Let the prince bring his human pets. It will only make his defeat more humiliating. General Mordok of the Krex fleet was not smiling. His scouts had reported something disturbing from the Luna Station training facility. The humans and Velthari were not just working together. They were creating something new, something that his strategists could not predict or counter. Prepare the main fleet, he ordered. If this alliance succeeds, it could change the balance of power in the galaxy. We must crush it before it can spread. As the Krex fleet moved toward Earth and Zarthok prepared to return home, Lisa made a decision. That would change everything. She was not just going to watch the man she loved fight for his life. She was going to fight beside him. The galaxy was about to learn that humans did not just adapt to challenges. They transformed them into opportunities, and sometimes love was the most transformative force of all. The Crystal Palace of Veltharion Prime had never seen anything like it. Prince Zarthok stood in the center of the combat arena, but he was not alone. Beside him stood Lisa Grant, wearing armor that had been specially crafted to protect a human body. Around them, the most powerful nobles in the Empire watched in stunned silence. "This is outrageous," Duke Veximer shouted from his position near the throne. "The sacred trial by combat is for royal blood only. Ow. This human has no right to participate." Empress Nalvera looked down from her throne with cold eyes. "The ancient law states that the challenged prince may choose any champion to fight beside him. There is no restriction on species. But tradition... Tradition also says that anyone who shows cowardice in the face of combat forfeits their right to challenge," the Empress replied. "Are you showing cowardice, Duke Veximer?" The Duke's red skin flushed darker with rage, but he could not back down now without losing face completely. "Very well, but when this human dies in the arena, her blood will be on your hands." Lisa stepped forward, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "Your Grace, with respect, I did not come here to die. I came here to prove that love makes us stronger, not weaker. Love." Duke Veximer laughed harshly. "Love is weakness. The Empire needs strength." "Then let us show you what kind of strength." "Love can create," Zarthok said. The combat arena was ancient, carved from the same crystal as the palace itself. For 3,000 years it had been the place where disputes of honor were settled, but never before had a human stepped onto its glowing surface. Duke Veximer's champion was a giant named Korthok, a professional warrior from the outer colonies. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, his scarred hide telling the story of 100 battles won. In his hands, he carried weapons that could cut through solid steel. "This will be over quickly," Korthok rumbled as he entered the arena. "I have no desire to torture the human. I will make her death swift." "How kind of you," Lisa replied, checking the unfamiliar weight of the energy sword in her hands. Zarthok had spent hours teaching her how to use Velthari weapons, but she was still far from expert level. "You do not have to do this," Zarthok whispered to her. "I can fight alone." "No," Lisa said firmly. "We're partners, remember?" Partners face challenges together. The signal horn sounded and the battle began. Korthok moved with surprising speed. For such a large being, his twin blades cutting through the air where Lisa had been standing just moments before. But Lisa was no longer there. Using techniques that no Velthari warrior had ever seen, she rolled, dodged, and weaved around his attacks. "Stand still and fight." Korthok roared in frustration. "Why would I do that?" Lisa called back, continuing. "To move? That would be stupid." The watching nobles murmured in confusion. Velthari combat was based on honor, strength, and direct confrontation. Lisa's tactics looked like cowardice to them. But Zarthok was smiling. While Korthok focused on chasing Lisa around the arena, Zarthok moved to attack Duke Veximer's second champion, a skilled duelist named Velkorin. The two engaged in traditional Velthari swordwork, their blades creating showers of sparks as they clashed. "You could have been the greatest prince in our history," Velkorin said as they fought. "Why throw it all away for a primitive alien?" "She is not primitive," Zarthok replied, his blade finding an opening in his opponent's defense. "She has evolved beyond anything we can imagine." At that moment, Lisa proved his point. Instead of continuing to run from Korthok, she suddenly changed direction and sprinted straight at him. The giant warrior, expecting her to dodge again, was was caught completely off guard when she slid between his legs and struck at his Achilles. Tendons with her energy blade, Korthok crashed to the ground, roaring in pain and rage. Recover. Lisa had rolled away and was helping Zarthok finish off Velkarin. Impossible, Duke Veximer whispered.
Oh, Uriel.
No human could defeat trained Velthari warriors. This human just did, Empress Nalvera observed. Perhaps you underestimated what humans are capable of. The trial by combat was not over. According to ancient law, Duke Veximer himself had to face Prince Zarthok in single combat to complete the challenge. The Duke was skilled with a blade, but he was also old and had spent more time in political meetings than in training. Zarthok could have ended the fight quickly, but he had something more important to do than simply win. He needed to expose the Duke's treachery to the entire Empire. Tell them, Zarthok said, as their blades locked together. Tell them about your deal with the Krex. I have no idea what you mean, Veximer replied, but sweat was beginning to form. On his forehead, Princess Yelana has the communication records, Zarthok continued, pushing the Duke back step by step. She knows about the territorial concessions you promised them. She knows about the attack on the human mining station. Watching nobles gasped. Dealing with enemies of the Empire was the worst possible crime for a Valthari noble. You have? No proof, Veximer shouted, desperation making his attacks wild and uncontrolled. I have all the proof I need, Zarthok replied calmly. And with a single smooth motion, he disarmed the Duke and placed his blade at the older man's throat. The trial is over, Empress Nalvera announced. Prince Zarthok has proven his honor and exposed treachery within our own ranks. Duke Veximer will be tried for treason. As the Duke was led away in chains, Lisa collapsed onto a bench, exhausted. The combination of adrenaline and alien gravity had pushed her human body to its limits. You were magnificent, Zarthok said. Sitting beside her, you fought like no one has ever fought in this arena before. I fought like a human, Lisa replied. We don't always win through strength. Sometimes we win through stubbornness and refusing to give up. Their moment of victory was interrupted by urgent alarms echoing through the palace. Princess Yelana burst into the arena, her face pale with fear. The Krex fleet has reached Earth, she announced. 200 ships led by General Mordok. Himself, the Joint Task Force, is moving to intercept them. Lisa jumped to her feet despite her exhaustion. We have to help them. The fastest ship to Earth would take 6 hours, Zarthok said. The battle will be over long before we arrive, and we have to trust our friends, Lisa said. We have to trust that what we built together is strong enough to survive. In the space near Saturn, Captain Murphy watched the Krex fleet approach and felt his mouth go dry. 200 enemy ships against their combined force of 30 human vessels and 20 Velthari ships. The odds were impossible. All ships, this is Murphy. He broadcast on the joint frequency. Remember what we learned in training? They expect us to fight like Velthari or like humans. Instead, we fight like something new, Stud Captain. Came the reply from Commander Zelkith. The humans have taught us that sometimes the best defense is a completely unexpected offense. The battle that followed would be remembered for centuries as the moment when galactic warfare changed forever. Human ships, with their adaptation of Velthari shields, became nearly impossible to target. They darted between the larger Krex vessels, like insects, striking at weak points that conventional tactics could never reach. Meanwhile, Velthari ships used human-inspired formations that multiplied their psychic coordination advantages. Instead of fighting as individual vessels, they moved like a single organism with 50 brains. The turning point came when technician Kyle Adams, monitoring communications from his position on a human destroyer, recognized a pattern in the Krex. Attack signals. Captain Murphy, I think I can disrupt their command frequency. Do it, Murphy ordered, using a combination of human electronics and Velthari psychic technology. Kyle sent a jamming signal that short-circuited the Krex fleet's battle coordination. Suddenly, 200 ships were fighting as confused individuals. Instead of a unified force, the combined human Velthari task force, still perfectly coordinated, tore through the disorganized Krex fleet like a sword through silk. Within an hour, General Mordok was fleeing with the survivors of his once mighty armada, When news of the victory reached Veltharion Prime, the entire empire erupted in celebration. The impossible had happened. A combined force of primitive humans and evolved Velthari had defeated the greatest military threat in the galaxy. Empress Nalvera stood before the assembled nobles and made an announcement that would change galactic history. The Empire hereby recognizes the Human Velthari Alliance as our new model for interstellar relations. Prince Zarthok and Princess Lisa will lead a new age of cooperation between our species. Lisa looked at Zarthok in surprise. Princess? If you will have me, Zarthok said, dropping to one knee in the human tradition of proposal. Will you marry me, Lisa Grant? Will you help me build a future where love is stronger than fear? Lisa laughed through her tears. Yes, you crazy alien. Prince, yes, I will marry you. The wedding ceremony 3 months later combined traditions from both species and was attended by representatives from dozens of worlds. The marriage of a Velthari prince and a human scientist became the symbol of a new age where differences were celebrated instead of feared. 5 years later, Lisa stood on the observation deck of the Alliance headquarters, watching her daughter Maya play with children from 6 different species.